What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Jordan J and Buddies podcast. I am your old host, your very old and decrepit, rundown host, Jordan J. Back with a solo episode. So yeah, no Will or Brannon, because I got tired of them. Just kidding. I'm just totally joking. So let's just get right into it. So if you haven't noticed lately, I just have not been on as many of the episodes as I used to be. Whereas it used to be Will and I always talking about something, once a week, twice a week, whatever it was we could, fit in. We tried to talk about things. However, what they are mainly into lately, obviously, is they still love the MCU. They're nuts about it. They gush about most things except for maybe the Eternals. They had a little blurb about it in the New Year's episode, so essentially they didn't like it. So what I'm going to talk about in this episode, this solo episode, is why I am not a fan of the MCU currently. I love the old stuff, Phase 1, 2, 3. There's some misses in there, but there's a lot more hits in there that are than misses. And so far, for me, in my humble opinion, Phase 4 is not that great. I haven't really enjoyed it. I haven't been excited about new things coming out. It's just been basically Spider-Man No Way Home, and then everything else I haven't really been a fan of. And it really sucks because I love this stuff. I was in line to see the Avengers in 2012. I was in line to see Captain America, the first Avenger. Seeing these things at midnight and then sticking around till 2:00 in the morning to watch the the end credit sequence. And back when they meant something, and now it's just kind of like, oh, hey, here's a character talking to another character. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just going to explain my reasoning, and hopefully you don't hate me afterwards, because I know a lot of people still enjoy what's coming out. I also know a lot of people really don't, or they're just not as excited anymore. All right, anyway, let me get into this. So Endgame, it ended, everything, of course, that trailer, not trailer, that theater experience was phenomenal. It was incredible. It was a lot of fun. People cheering and having a good time. Everyone laughed at every joke. It was just a lot of fun, and it was a good theater experience. Unfortunately, seeing Endgame again, especially if you're at home, you just kind of like, you don't really know. It's not that great of a movie. It's still cool, but there's a lot of it you can just kind of skip past and just be like, okay, I just want to see the cool end sequences and all that stuff, because that's how I feel about it now. I've kind of soured on it a little bit. While it's still, monumental and epic and really cool, it's just not that great of a movie, of a film, if you will. So, yes, I still enjoy it. And so I was like, okay, this is great. This is a good ending. I really like, they stuck the landing really well. And then Spider-Man Far From Home came out. And it was like the end credit scene of the whole, this in the Infinity Saga. I didn't really like it. I don't really like Spider-Man Far From Home. It felt like an odd departure for Spider-Man. It just... Anyways, I don't want to get into all that. I think I've talked about it before. Okay, that's fine. Another decent actual ending, an epilogue of it. And, and then everything happened with a certain virus out there. And a lot of things got put on delay and moved and pushed back to 2021, because nothing came out in 2020. And I was like, okay, I mean, maybe that was it. Maybe I just hit that kind of thing. I was like, okay, I'm done, because I've yet to find that excitement that I once had for it. And then 2021 came around, and these things, the series started coming out. WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, and WandaVision, at first, I was like, this is pretty cool. I like this. I still think some elements of it are pretty good. It began really slow, but then it kind of picked up and it was really good. And then it just kind of faltered. I think in our initial episode, I'm like, oh, this is really good. I enjoyed it. So I haven't watched it since that. But yeah, so it's just kind of like, okay, it's there. It works for what it is, I guess. And I did not like Falcon and Winter Soldier really at all. I think it was very rushed. It was very boring. Nothing too exciting happen. Like the character development, I guess, is there, but is it really necessary? And that's kind of my whole thing with this: is are any of these things coming out? I guess if you're just a super fan of the MCU, sure. But if you were a casual viewer and you were, I guess, I wasn't a super fan of it because I'm I'm kind of just like I don't want to watch these things. So I'm not gonna go through each one of these things, but yeah, I wasn't a fan of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Didn't seem necessary to me. Then Black Widow came out. And I was like, oh, okay, Black Widow. I like the Black Widow character. I like Scarlett Johansson in the role. Let's give this a shot. The trailers didn't really thrill me, but I was still okay. Seeing a Marvel movie in theaters is something that I've done since 2008. So why not? Why not go in again? I saw it with a friend of mine and went in. Initially, I was like, that first viewing was like, because we came out of it, and my friend was like, so, because I had told them that, hey, I'm not really liking the MCU lately and all of this, and so she was like, okay, well, hopefully you'll like this. And we went in, and then we were leaving. She's like, did you like it? I was like, yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was enjoyable. It was fun. I saw it again with my brother because it was his birthday later that week. And man, I was like, the beginning of the movie is great. It's really good. It's intriguing. It's exciting. It's this kind of cool espionage style opening, and I really liked it. But then the movie just falls into generic MCU stuff. It was like, hey, directors and writers, you can have free range with the first 10 minutes, but after that, we're taking over and no more creativity. And it's just substandard. Make sure you fit this character in. Make sure you put this person here to make jokes and generic action. Go. And it's like, oh wow, thanks. That's got to be great for a creative person. So the movie is just boring, and the action is like I said, it's just uneventful, and it's just not that great. Scarlett Johansson's like a background character in her own Black Widow movie. And I guess because they wanted to establish Yelena as the new Black Widow character, which I guess, but and she is one of the better parts of that movie. She's a lot of fun. Her jokes, more of her jokes land than the others. I did not like Red Guardian. I thought he was just a walking punchline and a punching bag for everybody else. Didn't like the Taskmaster thing. Just generic bad guy floating thing in the sky. It's just all of it was just boring and generic, and it's just it's just not exciting. I didn't get excited for anything after the end credit scenes or nothing. It was just kind of like, okay, sure. And then Loki came out. I might be off on these timelines, but Loki came out, I think, after that. But I dragged my feet with Loki. I barely finished it, I think, in December, maybe November. I don't remember, but I barely finished it. And same thing, like Loki becomes a background character in his own series. And it's just, again, a lot of talking in very dark settings that are atmospheric and moody for no reason at all. It's like, I get it that that you want that in there, but make it be purposeful. That's the thing with like a lot of these things is like you see a lot of camera movements and stuff like that, but it's like camera movement needs to have a purpose, at least to some degree. Yeah, sometimes you can just have a nice glamour shot of something, but you got to have some kind of drive behind why your camera's moving the way it is. And for the first part of Falcon and Winter Soldier, I felt it had that because some of the shots were very close up on like a weird angle of the eye, but it's like it's meant to be uncomfortable because that's how the character feels. But then that kind of went away for just, I'm going to keep using the word generic because that's what it feels like to me. Substandard kind of, camera movements. It's just everything, by the book, and it's boring. There's no more creativity where, before it felt like every movie was its own thing, but yet it was connecting everything very well. Whereas now, like I said, with Loki, it feels just, I don't know, because when you think about it, the first Avengers movie just ended. It started Loki, and Loki, I just watched the Avengers. Loki is this evil, maniacal, psychopath almost, who just wants to rule over people. And then in this, immediately he's turned into a punchline again. And I'm so sick of Marvel doing this. I'm so sick of the jokes and everybody becoming just this walking punchline. And it's just like, come on, And then they try to have these deep moments in the series, and it's just like it just falls flat for me because you guys, you're confused on what you want your theme to be. And so every time, Will and Brannon put out an episode about these things, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I can't agree with you guys on this stuff. And we've talked about it, and it's not like we get an argument about it. It's not like I'm, saying they're wrong for liking it. You can like it. Like, that's fine. It's just, it's not for me anymore. It's not what I want to watch. So, because they touted Loki as this amazing thing. Like, it was, maybe that was it. It just, they put their expectations way up there. And so it did that for me. But I ended up being like, maybe not. So I don't know. With that one, I don't see what they see. I tried real hard to be like, okay, some of the cinematography is good. The production design is pretty good, actually. I like a lot of the settings. But yeah, it was just, and it ended so weirdly. Like, so this is a big problem that they are starting with this now, with the whole multiverse thing, and with just starting a new phase in the MCU of it being like, this has to be bigger and scarier than Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. It has to be bigger. It has to be more. We can't have any more grounded characters because it all has to connect. We can't focus on one character because we have to branch off other characters to make this stuff all work. And it's like, you don't have to do that. Make a series about a character and leave it there. And then and at the end, you want to say, hey, this person's going to turn into this. Sure, that's how it used to be. And it was great to have a little tease, but now it's just like everything's got to be thrown in. Here's more nostalgia for you to gobble up. More content, devour it. And it's just like, oh, I can't anymore. I'm full. So yeah, everything has to be bigger, in Loki, the Infinity Stones are used as paperweights, and it's like, oh, okay. So, and hey, Kang, he constructed everything. It was all according to what he was doing. It's just like, come on, like, you guys are deconstructing your whole, what you built already. And that's the problem with a lot of what Hollywood is doing now, is deconstruction of characters, of stories, of all these things. And it's like, we don't need that. How about something new? How about something creative and different? But because Hollywood is it's a business. You gotta do the things that make money. And right now, it's just telling generic stories that are being funneled into us, and we're like, okay, yeah, sure. Anyway, again, it's not to put anybody down who watches this stuff. I know a lot of people do still enjoy it, and if you do, that's great. Good on you. Keep it up. Like, if you enjoy it, then you enjoy it. I don't, and this is how I see it now, and I don't like it. And so to go back to the multiversal stuff, that just becomes a, like, I don't want to explain this, like a fixer of these things. Oh, well, we messed up so long ago, so now the multiverse will fix that, and we'll bring in all the the nostalgia to bring you in, and it's just like it's just a scapegoat for them now. Oh, well, that's not really that character. That's a multiversal character. So that's Earth, whatever. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, okay, now everything is out of whack. And just like, come on, bring it back in, guys. Bring it back in. Make it personal. Make it condensed. Make it fun and creative and different. But so far, it's all the same. These series are coming out and they're all the same. So I don't know what. I can't agree with Will and Brannon on a lot of these things anymore. What If I thought would be kind of cool, but it was just kind of, it's just like, it's like, hey, what if this? I don't care. You didn't you're just, again, deconstructing the stories that I liked and telling them in a different way, and it's just like, I don't care again. I really don't. So anyway, yeah, so then that brings me to Hawkeye. I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent here. I apologize if I yell or anything, but Hawkeye, I was like, okay, I'm starting this out. I like Jeremy Renner's performance in it. Haley Steinfeld actually, she can actually act pretty well. Started it out, I was enjoying it for a bit slow like the rest of them, and then the action in this series, in the Hawkeye series, is so boring, so just mundane, and it's just like they just said, stunt team, put together the most easy to film fight scenes that we can do. We'll shake the camera and it'll look kinetic and energetic and so full of visceral action because we're shaking the camera and we're cutting to 500 different angles. But it's like, no, you're not not doing any of that. And it could just be like, oh, well, that's just you, Jordan. You just see that. I don't see that. I saw a lot of octane and fun action sequences. Yeah, maybe because I've seen some really good action movies out there, and I miss that. Fortunately, for me, we had Nobody last year, which had some amazing fight sequences, and things like John Wick, the King's Man, from Matthew Vaughn at the end of the year, into 2021, so good. That made me rewatch Kingsman, the first Kingsman, and then finally watch The Golden Circle, which it wasn't as good, but it just made me go through Matthew Vaughn again because he's such a good director. Anyway, so Hawkeye, it's and it just kind of started faltering. There's a lot of sitting again and talking, and then that's coupled with the boring action sequences, which I didn't know sci-fi and action and all this stuff could be boring until I saw Independence Day Resurgence, and I almost fell asleep during it. Anyway, so that's what this was, and I was just like, oh, this is dragging along, and the Christmas theme around it was just the background noise. It's not a Christmas series, it's just background noise. It's just when it happened to take place. Anyway, so yeah, and then so the spoilers for it, big reveal. I'm pretty sure you've already seen it. If you want to see it, you've already seen it. If not, my glowing review of it right now isn't gonna motivate you to see it. The big reveal in one of the episodes is, that's Wilson Fisk, and it's played by Vincent D'Onofrio from the greatest thing from, the Marvel Netflix stuff, Daredevil, which is still the best thing. If we want to include that in the MCU, like, it's better than all the movies, combined. It's the first season, second season's pretty good too. Third season's all right. I mean, but it's just such a great series. Anyway, yeah, then, Kingpin, he's the guy I didn't want to come mess with, or whatever he says. And then it's like, okay, cool, I'll see how this goes. And oh my gosh, was I disappointed. The most watered down and boring version of Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin I think we will ever get. He's wearing a freaking Cabana shirt. I understand, that's from the comic books. Sure, I guess. But he just looks and feels and moves and just is so boring and like I said, watered down. He is not the same Kingpin. And hey, guess what? There's an excuse for that already. It's because he's not from the same universe or something. I don't know. That's probably going to be the excuse. That's probably the excuse I will hear. He's not from the same universe as that one, where he took a guy's head off with a car door. Think about that. Daredevil, in the series, Kingpin was so angry with the guy who messed up his date. He drove him out to middle of, in a secluded area, yanked him out of the car, beat him up a bit, he fell down by the door, and then Kingpin smashed his neck area so much that decapitated him. Ruthless, brutal, scary. Hawkeye Kingpin, a few trick arrows and a bullet to the head, and he's gone. He took a guy's head off with a car door. And Daredevil. Oh my gosh. So seeing Charlie Cox, spoiler, in Spider-Man No Way Home, and hearing all this news that he's going to be in the MCU now, and it's like, oh no, please don't ruin him for me. You're going to ruin him. And so, yeah. It's just, so that's where I'm at now. I can't sit here and be like, I'm excited for this stuff. Spider-Man No Way Home was a nice little bright spot. It was good to see that they were still like, hey, we still like you, fan. It's like, come on back. I'm like, maybe. So yeah, and then it's just all nostalgia bait now at this point. Hey, remember our old projects when Marvel was sold to a lot of different places so they didn't, lose the company or so they didn't go bankrupt. Remember that? Well, all those old projects, they're all going to show up now in little cameos in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. What is with that title? My gosh. It's like Shang-Chi. Oh, I forgot about Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi. Let me go back to that real quick. Shang-Chi, out of those movies that, besides Spider-Man No Way Home, it was probably the better of them, of like Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and Eternals. Oh, I finally watched Eternals. And yeah, it is a boring and bland and dull movie. It just, it's just so boring. I fell asleep on it a couple times, then woke up and was like, oh, I did not miss anything at all. Anyway, Shang-Chi, yeah, I think it could have been so much better. It could have been so much cooler. But again, too many side characters and too many things going on that it wasn't a personal story. It wasn't about Shang-Chi or really the 10 Rings, barely. It would have been cool if it was about him, really running from his past, and it's about him and the dynamic between him and his dad, and it stayed within that and didn't kind of venture. It turns into this gigantic, CGI fest at the end. Which, when you talk to people about Wonder Woman, that's the part they don't like the most, is the CGI fight at the end. Because Wonder Woman is a pretty good movie up to that point, and they're right. Same thing here. It turns into a giant dragon battle, and the side character basically is the one to kind of take it down initially. It's just, anyway, so like I said, it could have been so much cooler, so much fun. But it wasn't. And there were some kind of fight sequences that were almost there. But then, again, they cut away to like a million different angles, and you don't really know what's going on until like, oh, hey, that guy won, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, brief little my thoughts on Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, another insane title. Why? But anyway, back to where it's headed. And this isn't fatigue. So Will and Brannon have their Marvel fatigue episode where they talk about, Marvel fatigue. I actually haven't heard it yet. They just recorded it yesterday or a couple days ago or whenever this is out. But so I haven't heard it yet. But anyway, it might even come out before this one. I don't know. This isn't fatigue. This is me just being done with it. I'm not excited for anything new coming out this year from the MCU. I'll probably end up seeing Doctor Strange in theaters. Hopefully, I don't pay for it. Hopefully, like my brother's like, I'll pay for your ticket. I'm like, okay. I don't even remember what else is coming out this year for them, but I'm not excited for it. I can tell you that much now. Like I said, Spider-Man No Way Home was, a good half of a movie. First half is very MCU and contrived and just all over the place. And then once the other Spider-Man come in, it kind of focuses and becomes a more personal story. And that was good. That was great. Anyway, so that's why it's not my favorite Spider-Man movie. It's why it's still Spider-Man 2 from Sam Raimi, who was directing Doctor Strange 2. I'm not saying that full title. And it doesn't. So looking at the trailers, it doesn't look like a Sam Raimi movie. It looks like a run-of-the-mill Marvel movie, like all the other ones. It doesn't have a Sam Raimi flair. Why bring in Sam Raimi if you're not going to let Sam Raimi do Sam Raimi? Like, hey, like an Edgar Wright directed Ant-Man movie, how incredible that would have been. But creative differences basically means, hey, we didn't want you to be creative. We wanted you to make the movie that will establish other things. And the first Ant-Man movie, it's fine. It's pretty good. But it's forgotten. It's definitely not in a lot of people's, top lists. Some people are like, it's in mine. It's like, okay, good for you. I said it's not in anybody's. It's not in most people's. It's not in mine. But so yeah, that's why I haven't been into the MCU as of lately. I still stand by that it should have ended after Endgame, or at least had a few tie up movies or something. But Endgame brought them a whole bunch of money, and they were like, we gotta continue that. And that's the unfortunate thing about it now. Like I said, Hollywood is a business, and that's the number one priority for them. So they're going to play the safe route with a lot of things. Go see an A24 movie. Go see a movie that, what is that? And you look at the theater, the movies in the theater, and like, what is this one? I have no idea what this is. Looks, let's go see that one instead. And go to theaters. Come on, like I love the theater experience. I just watched Moonfall with my brother, not because it was a triumph of a movie, but because it's really not. I just like the theater experience. I love eating popcorn, having my soda, and just relaxing and watching a movie on a giant screen. Moonfall is a very bad movie. It's the same generic, Roland Emmerich movie. He had one good movie in the 90s, Independence Day, and he hasn't made anything good since. So he's trying. Like, I honestly thought he retired, but he's still kicking out there. But anyway. So yeah, I mean, the MCU it has lost pretty much all of its steam for me. I mean, if you want me to break down each series, I can do that, but I'm going to probably have a giant headache afterwards, and I'm really not going to like it anymore. So I really don't want to do that. But the MCU isn't for me anymore. Even with them bringing it, and that's the thing too. Supposedly, spoilers, the X-Men might show up in Doctor Strange 2, and I'm like, okay, I don't care. The other Hulks are gonna be in there. Oh my gosh, and then so much, the 90s version that they were gonna do for the Avengers with Tom Cruise. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, Marvel, yeah, we get it. You pretend to listen to the fans, but So I'm bashing on this. If you like it, more power to you. Then you like it. Like, I'm not saying I'm too highbrow now. I just told you I watched Moonfall. Not too highbrow that I watch only indie films, and I'm such an auteur that I can't watch big budget superhero movies anymore. No, I'm still gonna go see the Batman. I'm excited for that. I like Matt Reeves. I just bought tickets for it for an early showing. It's like $50. So, I'm still excited. Batman's still my favorite character. I'm hoping I'm wrong about this. I'm hoping that I'll come out of Doctor Strange 2 and be like, wow, that was actually really good. A good story, good character development. It was about Doctor Strange, not about everything else. All this stuff was just kind of, anyway. So I hope I'm wrong about it. But I am not holding my breath. My expectations aren't skyrocketed. They're almost non-existent because I kind of just don't. As I said, I don't care. So I'm not going to be first in line to see this movie. I'm not going to be first in line to. I might not. I completely forgot Moon Knight was coming out, and that would have been a cool concept if it wasn't on Disney Plus, where they'll have a few specks of blood here and there, but then And I'm not saying that's the only thing that'll make it good, is if it's hyper violent. That's not what made Daredevil good. It was hyper violent, but what made Daredevil good was the story, was the character arc, was the action. The fight sequences are incredible in that show. My gosh, I watched Hawkeye and then I rewatched Daredevil season 1. I was like, okay, good. nice palate cleanse. But oh my gosh. So anyway, yeah, they're copy and paste is what I feel now. The MCU is this manufactured kind of style that they're going with, where everything's coming out exactly the same as the thing before it, and I see no creativity anymore. Again, this might just be me. I'm a bitter old man now, so it could just be that. I don't know. Oh, I just don't know how to have fun anymore with the movies. I do. I freaking loved Godzilla vs. Kong. It's a big dumb blockbuster movie with two giant creatures fighting each other. Was the human aspect of it incredible? No, they were annoying. I was like, show me more of Godzilla and King Kong fighting. Show me more of Godzilla beating the crap out of King Kong, because I like Godzilla more. So, but yeah, it's just kind of like, but I enjoy stuff like that. Spider-Man No Way Home wasn't a deep thinking, character study of an art house film. It was a big superhero movie with a lot of nostalgia thrown in, and it was a lot of fun. I do like it. I know I kind of soured on it a little bit, but I still like it. I saw it again in IMAX, and that was really cool. That's the thing about Eternals too. Watching it on a TV screen, there's odd IMAX sequences, and it's the most distracting thing because they cut in and out of them so much. Like The Dark Knight does that, but it's not as bad as this because it's like a few full sequences are shot in IMAX, whereas Eternals, it's like one scene, one shot, one sequence is in IMAX, and then it cuts down to, in the same scene, it cuts back to regular camera, whatever you want to call it, non-IMAX. And so it's just really distracting. So that's my spiel on this whole thing. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of most things coming out in theaters these days. But there's still some really good stuff in there. I kind of recently went through like a list of things that I really enjoyed from last year. Nobody, of course, I already talked about that. Pig is really good. The King's Man was really good. Yeah, and again, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see it changing, unfortunately, because a lot of people are still going to go see these movies and still watch these shows, and enough of people are, I hate to say it because then it's going to sound like, oh, it's a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. Enough people are wanting to be part of the early access to get to go to premieres and see things early and talk about it. They want to be a part of that. So they're going to keep telling you how amazing these things are. And I hope I can shed some light, because I am going to do more of these solo things, strict film reviews and, things like that. I'm going to jump in with stuff with Will and Brannon as well. Like, we want to talk about Letterkenny. We're still hoping to do that. That's a great show. And so, yeah, and I'm not, again, I don't sit there and bash these guys for liking it. I'm just like, it's just not for me anymore, guys. And I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. That's great. Have fun. I'll be over here with my nose, looking down at them real high and enjoying my ivory tower where I watch film. But seriously, come on, just enjoy movies, and that I just haven't enjoyed them. I'm rambling, I'm ranting on about nothing now. My mind's kind of going on in and out of this. But anyway, so that's why I haven't enjoyed the MCU as of after Endgame. I just haven't been as excited. I'm not getting any more excited about it. I'm just kind of like, I just, no. For me, anyway, I hope this wasn't, a downer kind of episode. I am going to be talking more just straight movies and things like camera movement and sound and music. That's one thing that Brandon and I, we were really excited to hopefully talk about, is music and movies and the motivations and all that behind it. So hopefully that'll be out soon. They have their Marvel fatigue thing coming out soon. We are going to start doing 2 episodes a week one maybe with them, them two talking, and then one of just me, and then sometimes maybe all three of us, and then just me. Or I don't know. Anyway, and of course I want to bring on more guests and people to kind of discuss these things with. But for now, you got just me and my ramblings. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the episode. Be sure to follow us on Instagram. That's where we post everything, new episodes, what's coming up, little snippets of the episodes. And yeah, it's just I'm hoping to do more with it, but I haven't yet. Anyway, so follow us on Instagram at Jordan J and Buddies. Please leave us a 5-star rating if you think this is a great podcast on Apple Podcasts. And yeah, you can find us everywhere. Like I said, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Just, you can just Google Jordan J and Buddies podcast and it'll show up. It's kind of the first one there. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you for listening. And because it's just me, you know what? I'll try it. Let me start the outro. So this is the outro. He took his head off with a car door. And in this one, he gets hit with a car and he's throwing around Kate Bishop, and he runs on. Come on. Remember the end of season 3? Okay, so I'm going to spoil season 3 of Daredevil for you real quick. So if you don't want to know about it, spoiler. Daredevil beats him up, and he looks at him and he says, "I beat you." And it's so good. So good. I'm sorry. I'm going off on something, but it's such a good scene. And he's wearing a Cabana shirt and he gets shot. Anyway, that was the outro. See ya.